Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So I hope the audio is okay. Thank you. Jayo Radha Madhava, Jayo Kunja Bihari, Radha Madhava, Jayo Kunja Bihari, जयो राधा माधव जयो कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव जयो कुंज बिहारी जयो गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरदारी जयो गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरदारी जयो गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जयो गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीर वनचारी हरि यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जयो राधा माधव जयो कुंज बिहारी जयो राधा माधव जयो कुंज बिहारी जयो गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जयो गोपी जन वल्लभ यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर हरि जयो राधा माधव जयो कुंज बिहारी जयो राधा माधव जयो कुंज बिहारी जयो गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जयो गोपी जन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन रंजन यमुना तीर वनचारी तीर वनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya, Vinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya, Govinda 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 Govinda, Gopala 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 Gopala, Govinda Govinda Govinda, Gopala 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 Gopala, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare. नाम संकीर्तन की, हरिनाम संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की, गुरुदेव की, गौ सीतनाथ परमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल। Hare Krishna. So kindly repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So Hare Krishna to all the devotees. So today we will be seeing the shloka which is from first canto. So today Srimad Bhagavatam, the verse is like this: first canto, 8th chapter, verse number 27. So 8th chapter is on Kunti prayers. So shloka 27. So I'll first read out the shloka and then we can all repeat. Namo akincha vittaya nivritta gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha Namo Akinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha Namo Akinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha Namo Akinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha Namo Akinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha Namo Akinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha. So, Mataji side, please try. Namo Akinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha Namo Akinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha Namo Akinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha. Hare Krishna. So thank you. So we'll see the word to word meaning. Namaha. All obeisances unto you. Akinchana Vittaya. Unto the property of the materially impoverished. Nivritta. Completely transcendental to the actions of the material modes. Guna. Material modes. Vrittaye. Affection. Atma Ramaya. One who is self-satisfied. Shantaya. The most gentle. Kaivalya Pataye. Unto the masters of the monus. Namaha. Bowing down. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. You can repeat this also. My obeisances unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are masters of the monist. So puppet by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So I just read the puppet. A living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. Therefore, a living being cannot be, in the real sense of the term, a renouncer. A living being renounces something for gaining something more valuable. A student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain better education. A servant gives up his job for a better job. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world not for nothing, but for something tangible in spiritual value. Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Raghunatha Dasa Goswami and others gave up their worldly pomp and prosperity for the sake of the service of the Lord. They were big men in the worldly sense. The Goswamis were ministers in the government service of Bengal, and Srila Raghunatha Dasa Goswami was the son of a big zamindar of his time. But they left everything to gain something superior to what they previously possessed. The devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a secret treasure house in the lotus feet of the Lord. There is a nice story about Srila Sanatana Goswami. Just a minute. He had a touchstone. Okay, Jagannath Baldev Sudramaya ki jai, Narsingadev Bhagavan ki jai, Gaur Nithai ki jai, Panchatattva ki jai, Guru Parampara ki jai. There is a nice story about Srila Sanatana Goswami. He had a touchstone, and this stone was left in a pile of refuse. A needy man took it, but later on wondered why the valuable stone was kept in such a neglected place. Therefore, he asked Sanatan for the most valuable thing, and then he was given the holy name of the Lord. Akinchana means one who has nothing to give materially. A factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. He can, however, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only property of a factual devotee. The touchstone of Sanatan Goswami, which was thrown in the rubbish, was not the property of the Goswami. Otherwise, it would not have been kept in such a place. This specific example is given for the neophyte devotees just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. Unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relation with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatan Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. Advancement of material vision or material civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. Such material advancement entangles the living being in the bondage of material body, followed by all sorts of material miseries. Such material advancement is called anartha, or things not wanted. Actually, this is so. In the present context of material advancement, one uses lipstick at a cost of 50 cents. And there are so many unwanted things which are all products of the material conception of life. By diverting attention to so many unwanted things, human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization, the prime necessity of human life. The attempt to reach the moon is another example of spoiling energy, because even if the moon is reached, the problems of life will not be solved. The devotees of the Lord are called akinchanas because they have practically no material assets. Such material assets are all products of the three modes of material nature. They foil spiritual energy, and thus the less we possess such products of material nature, the more we have a good chance for spiritual progress. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no direct connection with material activities. All his acts and deeds, which are exhibited even in this material world, are spiritual and without affection for the modes of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that all his acts even his appearance and disappearance in and out of the material world are transcendental. And one who knows this perfectly shall not take his birth again in this material world, but will go back to Godhead. The material disease is due to hankering after and lording it over material nature. This hankering is due to an interaction of the three modes of nature, and neither the Lord nor the devotees have attachment for such false enjoyment. Therefore, the Lord and the devotees are called Nivritta Guna Vritti. The perfect Nivritta Guna Vritti is the Supreme Lord, because he never becomes attracted by the modes of material nature, whereas the living beings have such a tendency. Some of them are entrapped by the illusory attraction of material nature. Because the Lord is the property of the devotees and the devotees are the property of the Lord, reciprocally, the devotees are certainly transcendental to the modes of material nature. That is a natural conclusion. Such unalloyed devotees are distinct from the mixed devotees who approach the Lord for mitigation of miseries and poverty, or because of inquisitiveness and speculation. The unalloyed devotees and the Lord are transcendentally attached to one another. For others, the Lord has nothing to reciprocate, and therefore he is called Atma Rama, self-satisfied. Self-satisfied as he is the master of all monists who seek to merge into the existence of the Lord. Such monists merge with the personal effulgence of the Lord, called the Brahmajyoti. But the devotees enter into the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which are never to be misunderstood as material. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nam Vendeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devan Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So before we start, so I'd like to take the blessings of all the senior Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who are here, the mercy of all of you, so that please kindly bless me so that the right words are coming out at the right time in the right spirit. And I'm just doing this as a service to my Guru Maharaj and for the pleasure of the Lordships. So on that note, we'll start now. I'd also thank ICC for giving me a chance to do this particular seva. So kindly bless me. So the verse goes like this, very simple verse. I saw some of you repeating even without seeing it. This is part of the Kunti Maharani prayers. So Namo Akinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha. So my obeisances are unto you. So Kunti Maharani is saying to the Lord, to Lord Krishna, that my obeisances are unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished, that is Akinchana. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are the masters of the monists. So just before we get started. So like you all know, the series that we are doing now is on the Kunti prayers. So Kunti prayers is in the first canto, 8th chapter. It is the actual prayers are from Shloka 18 to 43. And there are around 25 or 26 verses. So what is the uniqueness of these prayers? Kunti prayers are very famous. Many of them have been reciting it. I know some of you would have by-hearted the entire set of prayers. So what is it that's making this very unique? We'll just try to see that at a very high level. So what the acharyas are saying is that these prayers are very simple and illuminating. They are actually the outpourings of the soul of a great and a saintly woman devotee. That is Kunti Maharani. So we all know Kunti Maharani. So she actually, there are two aspects that are revealed in the prayers. These prayers are very deep. They have the deepest transcendental emotion of the heart. So it's talking about the emotions. And then it also has the most profound theoretical penetrations of the intellect. So what does that mean? It has a lot of philosophy in it. So there are two things. One is Kunti Maharani is actually talking from her, or she's paying obeisance. She is saying the prayers from her heart. And at the same time, it also gives us an insight into the understanding that the queen has or had. So they are actually words of glorification that are impelled by the divine love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is steeped in wisdom. So these are two things. Generally, these two don't go together. Generally, or that's the outside impression or the opinion that people generally have. So either you are very sentimental in one's prayers. It's just that you do certain things in a ritualistic way and very sentimentally attached, or otherwise there's too much of philosophy, and because of which then there is no action or there is no activity that is involved. So, but then this prayer becomes very unique because of the two factors coming together. They're very simple prayers, simple in words, but then they are very loaded. They're very, very deep. You just heard the translation. It took quite a while to finish it. There were 2-3 pages of translation. So Prabhupada is trying to bring out all the essence, all the nectar that is there, and I'm just make a humble attempt at doing the same thing. I have no qualification to do any kind of translation or commentary on this wonderful verse, or rather, for that matter, any verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I have no qualification. But then, yes, I did. I'm just trying to repeat the words or the lectures that I heard. To give a background, I heard the lectures of Srila Prabhupada, and then I also heard the lecture of His Grace Vaishishika Prabhu. So there were wonderful thought processes there. So we'll try to share that. So before that, let's try to complete the uniqueness. There's a little more on that. So that's one thing that most of you know. So the moment we talk about Kunti Maharani prayers, the only thing that comes to our mind is what? That she asked for suffering. So she asked for more suffering. So it was not that she didn't have suffering and then she asked for it. She had a lot of suffering. Her plate was already full. And then it was almost cleared. Everything was clear. The situation is that this is after the war has happened, after the Pandavas have been crowned, and then Yudhishthira Maharaj, that is. And then after that, then Krishna is leaving, and that is when these prayers are coming. They are very spontaneous forthcoming, very spontaneous outpourings of Kunti Maharani. So she is asking for more sufferings. Why? So that the Lord is with them. It's not a very sentimental thing again. There again, you can see the wisdom of the queen. I wish all those calamities would happen again and again so that we could see you again and again. Seeing you and then seeing you again and again could be interpreted as a very sentimental thing. Why? Because we know Kunti Maharani is related to Krishna. So maybe it's my nephew, I want to see you. So that's what happens, right, in material relations also. So it's not that. She is also concluding saying that seeing you means no more birth and death. So she understands the philosophy. So these prayers are immortalized in the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata. And then they are chanted, recited, sung by the sages and the saints for thousands of years. She is actually glorifying the Lord. This is bringing us to another point for contemplation. What is a prayer? So generally, prayers means Dan Dehi, Danam Dehi, oh God, give us our daily bread, so on and so forth. That's the prayer that we've been taught right from when we were children. And that is continuing outside, of course. but then she is glorifying the Lord. So prayer is actually a means to glorify the Lord. It's not a means to ask. And that's something that she is very clearly expressing here. Namaya. So every time there is obeisances, that it namaste. So every verse that you see, there is bowing down to the Lord, and there is surrender to the Lord. But then there is an interesting paradox here again. Kunti Maharani is, what's her Baba? Who is she actually? She is the aunt of Lord Krishna. So she is in the Baba of Vatsalya. So she's an elderly lady, and then Krishna is her nephew. So, but then along with Vatsalya, there is also Dasya that is there. So she surrenders to the Lord. There is so much of love that is steeped in wisdom, because she understands both her roles. She does not pay obeisances to start with, while the people who were junior at that point, this whole activities or the scene is that Krishna wants to leave, so everybody is paying obeisances and so on and so forth. For some people, Krishna is accepting the obeisances. For some people, he's hugging them because of the equal platform that they are in terms of the material identification at that point. And likewise, when all this is happening, of course, Kunti Maharani is not paying obeisances to the Lord, but then she breaks into a prayer. And that prayer, actually, you can see that she is awed by the presence of the Lord. And because she is awed by the presence of the Lord, there is automatic surrender that is happening. So there is this obeisances that is being paid in every shloka. So this is another dichotomy that is there, and that is balanced very well by Kunti Maharani. And talking about this kind of nature, I was just hearing one of the Prabhus say that we have an interaction with the Lord in the various bhavas, starting from Shanta, then Dasya, and then you have Sakya, then Vatsalya and Madhurya. So now these bhavas are present everywhere, even in all the Vaikuntha planets. But then there is a little bit of a uniqueness with respect to Goloka Vrindavan. So in Goloka Vrindavan, if you look at all the pastimes that are being exhibited in the Bhauma Goloka that's here, in Vrindavan here, or in Goloka Vrindavan, so the interactions are having the bhava, but then that bhava is not diluted, or in the process of exhibiting or having the interaction with the Lord in that particular bhava, they don't get bewildered by the Lord, then come down to a lower bhava. So like an example, if you want to give, take Kunti Maharani prayers only. So she was in the Vatsalya bhav, but then she gets so bewildered by the Lord that then there is complete surrender that is happening. So there is dasya that comes in the prayers, though physically she did not pay obeisances. So likewise, if you look, and then this happens outside of Vrindavan. So now take examples like any example anybody wants to give. Devaki Mata. So when Krishna was born, she knew he is my son, but then the 400 forms seeing it, then immediately then both Vasudeva as well as Devaki Mata, both of them pay obeisances. So there is this immediately they shift their bhava down to the lower, which is dasya in this case. So like that, there are many examples that we can see. But then if you look at the pastimes of Goloka Vrindavan or the Vrindavan here, you don't have this happening. So you take any pastime. So like take the Govardhan Leela. So when Govardhan Leela happened, Krishna performed a wonderful feat. He lifted the Govardhan with his little finger, left hand, little finger. And when he was lifting it, everybody was seeing. And then they were moving around. They stayed there for 7 days, 7 nights. So all that was happening. But during the course of that, nobody for a moment paid obeisances to Krishna. In fact, the Gopas were trying to tell, oh, no, it must be a little heavy for you. Let me hold it for you. So they were trying to prop with their stick. They wanted to help Krishna. So like this, you can see they did not come down in their bhava. It stayed put in Sakya or in Vatsalya or of course in Madhurya. It doesn't come down. So this is the uniqueness of the the pastimes that happen in Goloka as a side note. And then when you take that, and you take any other Leela, like that's the only reason why Yashoda Mata continued to chase Krishna with a stick. And then because she was in the Vatsalya Bhav, and then she never, even though she saw the entire universe in the mouth of Krishna, but that did not bewilder her in the way it should have when outside of Vrindavan. So she continued with her bhav. And that's something that Krishna wants it like that. And that is how then they are reciprocating. And technically why that happens is because of Yoga Maya. So those things, Anyway, now coming back to this, the relationship we did see. So the relationship, how is it that she's an aunt? That's because she's actually the daughter of Surasena and Yadu king, and then which is actually is a sister of Vasudeva. Vasudeva we know is the father of Vasudeva. So and then when she was born, then her name was Prita or Prita. So and then she was actually given an adoption to Kunti Bhoja king. So he was childless at that point. So he was given, and that's how she got the name Kunti. And from Kunti, then her sons are called as Kaunteya. Yeah. So that's the background, the brief background to Kunti Maharani. Now, in this verse, then we look at some 3 verses that I've just made a note here. So one is, of course, Akinchana. It's a very favorite topic for all of us. So that's Akinchana Vittaya. So which means the property of the impoverished. We'll try to discuss on that. And then there is also this word which is Nivritta Guna. So Nivritta Guna Vrittaye, which is beyond the actions of the material world or beyond the actions of the modes of material world. And then Atma Ramaya Shantaya. So that is again what is the aspect of being self-satisfied and then peaceful, gentle. And then, of course, he is Kaivalya Pataye. So he is a pati for everybody, including the people who are monists, who are seeking Kaivalya kind of liberation, who are seeking the liberation of merging. So even for them, he is the pati, or he is the head of them. So in this, the most applicable thing for us is Akinchana. So Akinchana, we'll try to see what is the physical meaning of Akinchana, and then a little deeper meaning of that. So Kunti Maharani here is saying that the Lord is a property of the materially impoverished. So what is impoverished? In poverty. So we don't have any material possessions. Being devoid of material possessions. So the Lord is actually property of such an individual. So somebody who gives up the material possessions, the Lord is actually becomes their property. The Lord gives himself to them. So that's a wonderful aspect of Krishna. So he's so merciful that he just gives himself up because he is seeing that they have given up all the material things because they want Krishna. So as they have no desire whatever, not even a trace or tinge. So Prabhupada says actually such akinchanas don't have even a trace or a tinge of any desire materially. So it could be at the subtle level, it could be at the gross level. And this word akinchana, where does it come from? There is this word called as kinchit. What is kinchit? Something, at least kinchit, little bit, No, akinchana. So not even something, not even a trace. So it's not like, okay, 80, 90, 95%, it's all okay, but then this 5% is still mine, so let me keep it. No, that's not akinchana, because kinchit, that 5%, 2%, 0.005 or whatever, that still remains. So then it is not akinchana as per the definition. So it is then not akinchana. So that's how we are trying to understand this word. And now what happens if we have a little bit of a trace or the tinge of some material desire within us? We know that's not rocket science for Vaishnavas, for people who are attending, who are reading. So the Lord immediately is so merciful that Prabhupada actually is a little sarcastic here. The Lord is so merciful that he will fulfill it. Meaning that he will make us continue with our birth and death. So he will make us, or he'll give us another birth, so that even that small trace, whatever is there, it gets fulfilled. So he's so merciful he is. He says, Krishna says, yes, take it. But then how long you think this will go on? This will go on till that small trace becomes completely eliminated. So till the jiva realizes the futility of having such desires. So we're not even talking about big desires. We're talking about the smaller, minuscule thing. Now, how does the Lord know? Okay, I'm doing so much for the Lord. I'm doing my services and all that. But then there is a small trace which is there. That's okay. I think he will ignore. But then, or we might conclude he can ignore. That's another point. But we might conclude saying that he may not know it. No, who is going to tell him? So we know the Lord is Paramatma, and then he is there. He's there in our hearts. So he is the first one to know. And then he need not ask anyone, of course. So it's a purificatory process for all of us, this particular mercy of the Lord. So that keeps on happening. And then there is this purification happening, refinement happening. So there are certain processes. No, the initial processes, the big impurities get filtered out. So then another smaller sieve you go to, then the smaller dimension impurity, contamination is filtered out. So like that, keep on happening at a physical level. Then you go into a chemical level. So you add something and then purify. So there is this, even in material science, in chemistry, there is no substance that remains at its purest form, because there's always some contamination that is there. But then 0.0001% or whatever. So it is always there. But then Akinchana is not even that. It is completely pure. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying that actually a living entity cannot be totally renounced. So this is a very difficult thing. No, by definition, if you see, we just cannot get to that point. It looks very daunting. I don't think I can reach there. So for me, birth and death is what is going to, it looks like that's what is going to be there. But then Prabhupada is there to give us hope. Prabhupada, if you read the purports and then listen to what Prabhupada said, there's a lot of hope there. So what he is saying is, he's very clearly saying that we cannot be total renouncers in the real sense of the term. And then he gives some wonderful examples, material examples. Why? Because we generally give up something for a higher, for getting something higher. Like somebody gives up a low-paying job to get a high-paying job, or we change our jobs for whatever reason. But always it is from a lower to a higher. Then a student will give up his fun and other things for studies. So what does study actually indicate? It means getting something higher. What is that higher? He wants more knowledge, maybe, or with that knowledge, I'll get a better job. Or for a smaller student, it would be, if I get good marks, then I will get what my parents have promised me. Or it could be like, at least they will not bother me. I can go out and play. It could be anything, but then it is something higher in that particular person's mind. So you give up something to get something higher. That's all. That's a very simple rule that all of us have been doing. And then, so likewise, a devotee actually gives up material possessions and hankerings for higher tangible spiritual life. So a practicing devotee, an aspiring devotee also does the same thing. He gives up something temporary to move to permanent. So we know what is that permanent, what is something shashvat, what is sanatan. So there's this prayer also, no? Mrityur mam amrutam gamaya. Asatoma sat gamaya. So as students, we've repeated that many times. At least I've been repeating it. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know the meaning. Asatoma sat gamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityurmam amrutam gamaya, om shanti shanti shanti, and then we used to run out. That's it. So, but then we realize how, without us knowing, this thing is being ingrained, so saying that leave things. It is telling us where we are, and then it is telling us where we have to go. So mrityurmam amrutam gamaya. So in our parampara also, it is not just text or theory that we are seeing. If you look at our parampara, we saw in the purport, all the acharyas, most of them, like Rupa Goswami, then Sanatan Goswami, they were ministers. They gave up that position. What did they give it up for? They gave it up for a higher cause or a higher understanding of getting something higher. So this desire is something that cannot be completely eliminated, but then it can be dovetailed. And this wonderful relief is given by Srila Prabhupada, where he said that you dovetail your desires for Krishna, Thereby then you will be able to progress faster. And that is being shown by all these examples, like Raghunath Dasa Goswami. We know he was a very wealthy zamindar's son, and then he just gave up. He walked out. I mean, he walked out many times. If you know the past time, he tried to run away many times, and then his father used to depute some people to go catch him and then bring him back. So that happened a couple of times. I don't know how many times. But then after that, then finally he was able to come out. He relinquished everything, and then he was made to spend money also. Where is a place where he was made to spend money? Panihatti. So Danda Mahotsav. So good Danda he received, and then after that, then it was wonderful. So like that, the pastimes that are there are so wonderful, and then we can. I mean, even if you take this example of the touchstone that we just saw, all of you know this story. I'll not repeat it. Where the Brahmana actually he's contemplating, and then he gives up that touchstone. He says, "Wait a minute." He's very happy when he got the touchstone, and then happily he's walking back, and then he suddenly there's something that strikes him, and then he pauses, and he says, "But why was it in the dustbin? Why was it rejected? Maybe he has something more better than this. That is why this was in the dustbin." So he goes back to him, and then the rest was history. So like this, one has to give up something, be it a touchstone or be it the positions that we are already having or anything. Unless one gives it up, we will not be able to receive the higher spiritual wealth that is there. So only in this particular position of becoming an akinchana or moving towards becoming an akinchana. So I'll use that word. I mean, we are not akinchanas, but at least if we are moving towards that, maybe we'll give up things that we don't need or we don't need it so much, or we are not so attached to it. It's a good start. It starts from there. At least that's how I try to do. So try to give up something that I didn't want, and then slowly try to give something that is wanted. So I'll give you a wonderful, a small incident that happened. There's nothing great about it. So we used to listen to attending ISKCON functions, and then finally we came to a position, or rather, I came to a position where I said I will take some prasadam for people whom I see in the streets when I'm driving to office. In the signals, invariably there is somebody coming and begging. We came to know we shouldn't offer money. So then, okay, something I will give. Prasadam was a good idea. Okay. So then I told Purnanandini, my wife, that okay. So pack me. She generally packs some chapatis. So I said pack some 2 extra chapatis. So I'll go and give it. I thought I'm doing a big thing. So I was very happy. I felt very happy with it, proud of myself. And then I went. That day, nobody came. I had extra chapatis. I had to come back home, and then I got it from her that I have not completed. And then who's going to eat this kind of a thing? So this happened. Then I said, okay, one day it happened. So then the next day again, I took something a little more. If I'm taking 3, I said pack 5, something like that. So then that day also nobody came. Then I gave up. Regular material world. So I said, okay, this is not going to happen. Maybe that was not a good idea. So I gave up. I said, no, give me what is my normal quota. So she gave me 3. On that day, talk. That's when then I realized that don't take what is extra and then try to give and then say that you have given. From what is meant for you, what was your quota, and then you are able to give, that's better. And that's something that came to me. And then, that's, of course, I did give it, but then I didn't do any more experiments after that. But I'm just saying this happens in everybody's lifetime. I'm sure all of us have such foolish activities, proclivities, or whatever you want to call it, that is their part of our life. But then in the process, then we gain something. And then in the process, then so even though it was, I gave up something, not in 100%. I didn't give. I was not like the king. No, who was that? Shibi? No, Ranti Dev, who gave up everything, even though it was fasting. He had to break, but still he kept on giving. He was tested, and he kept on giving. That's way, way, way beyond. I'm just talking about such small things. Even if we do that, there is a benefit that we get a higher benefit if we give up. And that is the way in which this particular word ahetuki has to be understood. And the people who are akinchana, no, sorry, not ahaituki, akinchana has to be understood. And then the people who are in this mode of akinchana, they are just carrying the Lord in them. They don't have any other desire. Because if you don't carry the Lord in the heart, then other things will come in. Like science students will know. You can't maintain vacuum in a particular place. So you'll have to fill it up with something. Like generally they fill it up with nitrogen. So when that happens, then that means then other air means something else will not enter there because it is already full with nitrogen. So like that, we can't maintain vacuum. We can't say, oh, okay, let me sit, meditate, let me keep my mind blank. And then, I will not allow any negative thoughts to come in. Let me do it. So, yeah, it's a very funny thing. So it can't happen. So thoughts will keep coming in. So the only way is to fill it up with a higher thing. Like how a small child, you want to take away a particular toy from it. It doesn't give. It's so attached. You do whatever you want. It doesn't give. You sweet talk, you threaten, you do anything, it will not give. It is, I want it. But then you bring a bigger, more attractive toy. Your job is done. You just keep it there. You don't even have to give it. So this will automatically be forgotten and it will start moving there. So that is how we are. And that is how we should be. That's a good situation to be in. If you are able to see Krishna as that bigger toy and then give up the smaller toy of material possessions, then that's a wonderful win-win situation for us. And then, so the desire and the will in the heart is nothing else but Krishna. That is, and then we do some seva. So that seva is called as ahaituki, which is unmotivated, which is causeless. Which is causeless means we don't want anything to happen because of that. I don't want any outcome. I am doing this, so let my things be taken care. I am doing this seva so that Krishna becomes pleased and then he grants me something or he makes life a little more better for me. No. So we are not talking about that. And then it is also uninterrupted. It's not like, okay, I did it from Sundays I will come and do. I mean, but then other days are for this thing. I had a boss, he had a very interesting statement. He said, for some reason, generally we don't talk, but then he said, I'm a Brahmana. And I said, okay, but you know what? I'm a Brahmana from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. After that, I am not. I just fell down that day when I heard that. I mean, how could that be? You're either a Brahmana all through, or otherwise you say you're not a Brahmana, and so be it. I mean, both are fine. I mean, that's your choice you have made. But then you can't say I am it at this point and then after that. So he was trying to say that I do what I have to do, but then once I leave home, then I mean, anyway, that's not a good example, but then, yeah, that's how it is. So most of us are like that, or tend to be like that, or we were like that, but that's not a right thing. So it has to be uninterrupted. It has to be continuous. No taking a break. In fact, I was thinking like, we know the age of Brahmadev. Brahmadev has got a long tenure, say 100 years, even in his thing, 100 years. 100 years, he's employed by the Lord. And that employment is like 365 days he has to do his work. There is no CL, there is no EL, medical leave, sick leave, there is no relaxation, nothing. Every day he has to create his day, that is. He has to create, he has to take care, and then wind it up, whatever. And then again the next day, again the next day. Can you imagine doing that for 100 years? Anybody wants to become Lord Brahma or something like that? No way. I mean, 5 days and then we have had it. We want to take a break. And then he's dealing with material things. So that's a very tough thing. But then doing uninterrupted service, for that we need the mercy of the Lord. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Now, we know that this type of seva is the highest. In fact, even in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.6, there is this particular shloka which reinforces this fact that we will have to, the benefits of Bhakti Yoga. So there's this verse some of you might know. Savai pumsa parodharmo yatho bhakti rajokshade ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. So it says that the supreme occupation for all mankind is to attain that devotional service, which leads to us becoming ahaituki and apratihata. Which when one meditates on this particular verse or on the lectures that are there, so it is clear that we need to perform that kind of service, else it is not highest. So in fact, even in Srimad Bhagavatam at the start itself, it is saying in the second shloka, it is saying this particular Bhagavatam is given which is actually a rejection of all kaivalya things, that is dharma projita kaitava. So rejecting all the activities which are driven by fruitive, even religious activities, which are actually driven by material wants, rejecting that, we will have to move to a situation which is higher than that, which is not having any desires. So even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said the same thing. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. So we know, we understand theoretically, we all understand that we have to do a kinchana type of bhakti. But how can we do this? How can we carry this out, this particular seva, without having any material desire? That is the question that is troubling most of us. I mean, how can it be not materially motivated? Now, to understand that, let us see what is materially motivated. Can we have some examples of what are what are the services that generally one does, which has some desires, which are materially motivated? Anybody wants to give an example? Like doing a seva because you get praised. I'm just giving a cue. Puja, Labha, Pratishtha. Thank you, Prabhu. So we want those. Though it is seva, it is service to the Lord. We come here, we do that. But then we want some praise. We want some popularity. I mean, we may not say it, but then within us, we know what it is. Or we might like doing a certain thing. I want to only sing. I want to do only this. I don't want to do that, cutting a vegetable, whatever. So we all know. I mean, there are many examples. So this is called as selective sevas. So selective sevas is again not in the category of ahaituki. So these desires are at the gross level and at the subtle level. When there are no desires which are at the gross and the subtle level, then it is akinchana. And this is a word that is misunderstood generally by all of us, including me, by grihasthas. Akinchana we think is losing everything, giving up. Oh, no, I cannot do that. No, don't conclude. Don't become so judgmental, because we have the parampara, we have Srila Prabhupada, who has given us a proper explanation and then trying to lead us to this point of akinchana. And then he says that we always give up something to gain something. Today, you all are sitting here. I am sitting here because we gave up what we were doing when we were not connected here. We gave up some material activity. We gave up sleeping late, or getting up late in the morning or whatever it is, but then got up early. So we gave up that pleasure, that material thing, and then we are here, then we are gaining. What we are gaining? We are gaining the mercy of the Lord. We are getting wonderful association, so on and so forth. So there is a lot of gain that is there. Step by step, it is good to measure the gains that we have and then take it forward. So now, akinchana also, there is another explanation that is there in Srimad Bhagavatam in 5.25. I thought that's very relevant here. So there the Lord is explaining this particular word. He says, Akinchananam mai bhakti bhajam. I'm not taking the full shloka. But then what the Lord is saying is that the brahmanas, or the people who are spiritually advanced, their perfect qualification is akinchana. That means they don't possess anything. So by default, willingly they give up everything. And that is why for a brahmana, there is this thing of dana and pratigraha. You might accept gifts, but then at the same time, you're supposed to give gifts. So in fact, I heard one of the acharyas say that a brahmana in the earlier days used to wantingly keep himself in an impoverished state. It's not that he couldn't earn money or he was not getting money. He was getting a lot of money, but then he used to give it up. He used to make sure that he is in that state, so that it is by choice. It is not by design. It is not by his karma. It is by choice. He just gives it up and then continues his seva to the Lord. So a good example of akinchana in this thing, like say Mahabharata is a friend of Krishna, Sudama. Sudama wantingly kept it. He knew. It's not that he didn't know. I go to Krishna, my life is made. But then he didn't go. And then what prompted him to go finally? It was his wife. And then he went. And then, but then one good thing is, it's not that it is the end of the story. The end of the story is that even with all that opulence that he got, he continued his seva. He was not affected by that. And that's akinchana again. So akinchana is, of course, you have to give up something so you get something. But then, even if there is something and then not having any desire or attachment to it, also qualifies under akinchana. And then the Lord is saying that Such devotees, they don't even ask anything. They know who I am. They know my prowess. They know my potential. They know I can grant anything, including liberation. Lord is saying this in that particular verse, 5.5.25. But he's saying, he's concluding that, but they don't want anything. They are not asking anything from me. And so actually the heart goes out to them. So that's one thing. And then even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, also this word, this thing is mentioned. There it is not, the word is not used as akinchana. It is called as niskinchana. So nishkinchana or akinchana, it is the same. Like without kinchit, that we saw that, right? Example, without having even a trace of anything. It's like this, generally we know what is Vaikunta, but I was in the Bhagavatam in some places, instead of Vaikunta, there's another word that is used. Anybody knows that? Akunta. So Akunta is Akunta. So no worry again, which is again Vaikunta. So they are synonyms. So here again, Niskinchana or Akinchana. So they have no desire for material comforts and they don't ask the Lord anything. They don't worship. So all this is fine. And then we also saw in detail that we'll have to have physical and then at the subtle level as well as the gross level. There are two shlokas in Bhagavad Gita, which if you remember, that will help us. So which is in the second chapter. So Bhogaishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Pahartha Chetasam, where we are told to physically give up unless we physically come out of this mood of Bhoga and Aishwarya. Then samadhavana vidiyate. I mean that the vyavasayatmika buddhir, that is the intelligence to go to Krishna does not take place. So we'll have to give up that physically. And then after some verses, Krishna again says, giving up physically is not enough. He says, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinam. So even if you give up physically, in the mind it is still existing. So perfect cleaning is happening. So there again, then how do you get out of that? By keeping Krishna in the place. So you'll have to replace it. We discussed that. And these are supported by these verses. So I'm just saying that. Now, we have some idea of Akinchana. So we are coming to the main part. How do we reach there? How do we get this Akinchana Seva? It's not there in us. So there is a wonderful analogy that is given by His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, which I would like to share here. How to become detached from possessions. So material attachments and desires and all of this, he says it is by knowledge, by right knowledge. Jnana, okay, now we were talking about bhakti and now we are coming back to jnana. So let's not get confused here. He's saying right knowledge. And now I've also heard somewhere people say that right knowledge leads to bhakti. If it doesn't lead to bhakti, then it is not right knowledge. Right knowledge gives us humbleness, vidya, vinaya, sampanna. So many such things we have. But then he tries to make us understand by a simple story. So this is a story about a 2000 rupee note. So of course, he was talking about a $500 or whatever, but I'm just taking the example of a 2000 rupee note. Now, let's stop this and then for a moment, let us think that we are in a supermarket. So there is a queue. We have taken some items and then we are in a queue and then we are going to that checkout counter and then we want to pay and then get out. Now we see there are some people ahead of us and then in that one person, when he's taking out his purse and then he's doing his payment or whatever, there is a 200 rupee note that falls down and then you are seeing it. Okay. So what happens? Well, normally, what will we do? Do we get attached to that 2000 rupee? That's mine. Let me take it. No, we realize that this person has dropped it. So we know whom it belongs to. So what do? We pick it up. Excuse me, sir. I think this has fallen out. Please take it. So we give it back. Do we keep thinking about the 2000 rupee note? Is there anyone who does it? I mean, a normal person. Not. And it's over. We don't even remember it after some days. Oh, did I really do that? So this 2000 rupee note we didn't get attached to. Now, let us say the same day, then in the evening, we go to a park and then we find a 2000 rupees note again lying somewhere. And then you look around and then you don't see anybody there. So you don't know whom it belongs to. So what do? What does a thought comes to our mind? I mean, we may not bend down and pick up, but then, wow. So there is some excitement within us. So we get excited. Maybe I can pick up something with that. Okay, just an example, right? It happens, right? Am I off the mark? No. So this happens. So now this 2000 rupee note and that 2000 rupee note, it's the same individual. My wants did not change from morning till evening. And the 2000 rupee note value also did not alter. It did not become 2 million by evening. So it is the same. But then in one place I was attached, in another place I wasn't. Why? Why did that happen? Prabhu says that happened because I knew who the owner was in the first instance. In the second instance, I didn't know. In the material world, we are like that. We don't know who is the owner of the things that we own. So then we go back to the Shastras. What does the Shastra say in terms of possessions, in terms of material things? Whom does it belong to? So in Isha Upanishad, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam, Yatkincha Jagatam Jagatene Taktena Bunjita Magrada Kasya Siddhanam. So then Krishna is saying that everything belongs to the Lord is the rule number one for us. And then he has given us some quota. Okay, it belongs to him, but then he has allocated some quota to us. Be happy with that, whatever is yours. So now this shloka and then the purport of Srila Prabhupada, if we reread, go through, internalize it, then to some extent, then we will know who's the owner. So we will not get bewildered, or at least the bewilderment, at least we will realize even when we are getting bewildered, a thought comes that I should not get bewildered. So that's the first step. So then, in the second place, not knowing the owner, that is a material thing. Oh, this is my house, my land, my property. I am the owner. So we don't know who the owner is. So we think we are the owners. I am the Lord of all that I see, all that I survey. So that attitude is way beyond, or it's the other end of the spectrum where akinchana is on one side and then this is on the other side. So this is a wonderful story that helps us to understand. And then even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bhoktaram yajna tapasam, sarvalokamaheshwaram, suzam sarvabhutanam, nyatva mam shantim ruchati. So there are two more benefits that we get if we know the right owner. One is we will not get bewildered. We know, it doesn't belong to me. So somebody drops in, we know it is this, and then we'll give it back and move on. Then it will also prompt us to do the right action. Do you all agree on this? What should I do? Like, take the example of going, tapping that person and telling him, sir, I think this is yours, or madam, this is yours, you dropped it. And then that person thanks. So there is a right action that happens. So when we know whom it belongs to, we will do a right action. So even if we find a 2,000 rupee note in the park, we will not use it for ourselves in one sense. When I was a kid, I was told, like, I happened to find some money, and then my mother said, like, go and put it in the undi, go and put it there. So I was wondering, oh, okay, anyway, just put it. Without any knowledge, you did the right thing. But then now you realize, so it's so nicely it connects, So whatever we were told, so that if only that remained with us all through, what we learned as kids, we tend to forget when we grow up. But then if that was there, then we'll be in the right path. So this is the knowledge that we are talking about. So knowledge to know, how much to know or what to know. It's not about some philosophy about lot of things which are confusing, whether the law, what is that, Advaita, Vishishta Advaita, whatever, and then what did Buddha teach? We are not talking about such vast knowledge, because the knowledge that exists is too vast. For that, again, what is needed, what is required? Only that knowledge. And that knowledge, if we have, then we will move towards akinchana. And that knowledge is already given to us. We know what is our quota. And that will, and then once we know all this, then we are now, to some extent, then we are convinced that I will know right action. And then after doing that right action, there is satisfaction also. How many of you did not feel satisfied when they did such an activity of giving something which was not theirs? You just gave it to them. You felt so happy, right? It was not yours. Somebody left their mobile. Hey, go run and then tell him, mobile, sir, please take it. And then he will take it. He will thank you. Even if he doesn't thank you, you feel some satisfaction within. What is this satisfaction? Only thing is we need to dwell on this. And then automatically we'll become preachers then. So what is that preaching all about? It is about connecting somebody who is lost to his father, back to the father. How much happy or how much of happiness we'll get if we connect. Now, that is what preaching is all about, right? So go in the material world, there's so many people who are lost. They don't know who their father is. They are like the rich man's son. You know that example where he has lost his memory and all that. So everybody is like that. So you go to that person and then in a nice way, without agitating that person, then tell him who is the father. And that is preaching. And what is it that he should do to go back there? Help him buy a ticket, give it to him and tell him, okay, board that train and it will take you back there. So if you do that, then there's so much of happiness for us. And then you're also pleasing Krishna. So now we are not doing that just because it gives me happiness. So that is at one stage. But then as we move higher, then we're just doing that because Krishna wants us to do that. Because if we are doing that for happiness, then certain type of preaching we will not do. We will not do certain type of Nagar Sankirtan. Because in Nagar Sankirtan or in preaching, rejection rates are high, isn't it? You get rejected. So when you go there, mana, apamana, you have to take it. You have to imbibe it. So somebody, you go with the book, he will not even look at you. He will ignore you. You do not even exist. And then it hurts the ego, right? So that's the reason why there is a lot of, if one is doing preaching, one is doing Nagar Sankirtan, one is doing book distribution, these are wonderful things. And if you are doing it ahaituki and apratihata, continuously without interruption, then that is a great thing. Such people have to be, they are akinchanas. That's what they are saying. And there is another thing, the highest devotional service that is there. Okay, before I talk to that, I've got to, let's just try to test our understanding. We discussed at length on this akinchana. I just try just to test our understanding. I've got two statements which I'll make. So the first statement is, you will have to decide for yourself. You don't have to tell, or you can tell, which is akinchana bhakti, which is more akinchana than the other one. So the first statement is, I want to please Krishna. How many of us are here? We want to please Krishna, right? Yes. So the first statement is that I want to please Krishna. The second statement is, I want to see Krishna is pleased. So now, which is akinchana? Both are good. It's not like we are choosing one over another. But then, which is the better one? The second one. Because in the second one, we want to see Krishna is pleased. So having this desire that I want to please Krishna is good. But then just having this thought that I want to see Krishna is pleased is another thing. So thereby, the activities that we would do becomes different in the first statement and the second statement. So where the prominence is on the I in the first statement, and the prominence is on Krishna in the second statement, where we want Krishna to be pleased and nothing more. So that is why 12th chapter is there, which tells us maintain equanimity. What is all this? This is like training ground, like in the training, army training. Load, unload, do this, keep the gun, 1, 2, 3, all those activities. So like that, you have all this. Keep equanimity, don't get agitated. If you hear good news, bad news, don't go up and down. Don't allow yourself to oscillate that way. If you're honored, dishonored, try to bring in equanimity. So this is all practice so that we are able to do it in the way that it has to be done. So, and where is which is the battleground for us? So all that is like training, I said, all this reading and all that, which is the battleground here. It's not death. Mind, okay, but then actual practice, which is the battleground? The battleground is the Sunday morning, according to me. Why? Because we meet so many Vaishnavas. And then we like many of them. There are kinchits, some people maybe we don't like, because maybe last week he did not listen to what I said, or whatever, or he didn't say Hare Krishna to me, or he didn't serve me well. It could be anything. Our mind can pull out reasons to not like, or whatever. So then, are we still saying Hare Krishna? Are we smiling? Are we able to do that? This is an austerity. Get over it. It's not like, okay, I can do it easily. No, it doesn't come easily. But then we will have to do that. This is a battleground. This is a battleground or a training battleground, mini battleground that is given. So that the final war, which is at the death and beyond, and then we are able to win. But then sometimes we lose some battles, but then we are always trying to improve ourselves. Then it becomes wonderful for us. Yes or no? So please take this as in that view, and then let's try to look at what service that I can do. And then the service that I'm doing, is it akinchana? Yeah, there is some kinchana, but then I have to move towards that. How can I make that akinchana? How can I please? I want to please Krishna, or I want to see Krishna as pleased. What is my philosophy? What is my thought process? Am I tending towards that? I may not be there now, but then am I tending towards that? So that creates a mood. There's a wonderful thing that happens. So like Guru Maharaj was giving this example. To crystallize sugar solution, there is only one thing that is needed. What is it? You need another crystal. The moment you drop it into it, then the whole sugar solution becomes crystallized. That's the process. You don't need many crystals. Just one crystal is enough. Drop it, it becomes crystallized. So if one person is getting to the akinchana, then you will find it has a ripple effect on everybody. And then you will realize that it is all completely changed. So in this way, it gives a different perspective. At least this shloka gave a different perspective to me. And this is a perspective that Krishna is giving to everybody. Krishna gave it to Uddhava. When Krishna sent Uddhava to the Vrindavan, and then he asked them to deliver a note to all the gopis, he was actually teaching Uddhava a lesson. That's an ulterior motive there, because at that point, Uddhava was a little proud of himself because he was very close to Krishna. And then he does this. He sends Uddhava there. You know the story. But what happens is actually when he goes there and then he sees the mood of the gopis, then he realizes that I'm nothing. So his pride is taken. Then he realizes how exalted they are. Why are they exalted? That is because they are in that stage where, see, they also had a problem. We also have a problem. Our problem is remembering Krishna. What is their problem, Trying to not remember Krishna, because they were always thinking of Krishna, and that was becoming a problem for them in a material world. When you see, what is it? There was this madness that he saw in them. So Radharani is talking to a bumblebee, and then they see a bumblebee, it is black in color, they're reminded of Krishna. So everything they are connecting to Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So what is there in their heart? Nothing else. That bee is nice. Let me keep it. No, or let me try to get. No. That is all desires that are of the mind or the heart. But then anything that they see, the thought is going to Krishna. So this is akinchana. That's what Prabhu was concluding. He said this has to be akinchana because they don't have any other desire other than Krishna. So if we have no other desire other than Krishna, then it is akinchana. Akinchana means nothing of the material world. And then that akinchana mood actually leads us to gunavritti. So gunavritti is like not rising beyond the gunas, beyond the outcomes. You're not worried about there is mana or apamana. You're raising beyond that. It doesn't matter. As long as Krishna is pleased, it's okay. What happens to me is secondary, which is a good thing. There are many people who have displayed that. Arjuna displayed that. When did he display that? He went ahead for a Kshatriya to be told to go and shoot an arrow of another Kshatriya in a battlefield when he is without an armor, which is against the principle of Kshatriya Dharma. He still did it. Why? Because Krishna said that. He didn't give a second thought. He said, yes, you asked me to do. Mana, apamana, what will world think of me? Even today, Arjuna is vilified for that. People ask outside, how can Arjuna do that? But then he is okay with that. He didn't think about it. Whereas Yudhishthira Maharaj slipped up a little bit. He thought, how can I tell a lie? So those wonderful paradoxes that are there in it. But this is the rasa or how we can churn that particular nectar, and then how our acharyas have given it. And that brings us to the last point, which is how all this is given to us on a platter. I was thinking of this instant food. I have 5 minutes, so I'll just take that. So everything is on a platter for us. All this, whatever we are seeing, whatever we have learned or whatever I have learned, I did not go and then learn Sanskrit. I did not get into the way nothing of that sort. It is all there already. It is like instant food, like this making of bisi bele baat. So many of you know that's a very typical Kannada dish, Karnataka dish. The original way it is being made, like how our grandmothers used to do it, is very laborious. They start with making the masalas for that and all that, and then it goes on. It's a 2-day activity. The previous day you get all that. Cutting this, that, and then finally, then on the day, then it's put on the fire, and then you have to add certain ingredients at the right time, all that. But today it's not like that. You go to this MTR world or whatever, and then pick up an instant food which is there, and only 4 instructions are there. What are those 4 instructions? Cut the packet, and then put the water to boil, empty the contents, stir it. So we also have 4 instructions, simple ones. Do japa, get up in the morning, do japa, associate with devotees, and do what you can do. That's it. So you don't have to really get to that other side of what it is and all that. This is what it is. And then the visivele gets, it comes out. The aroma begins as you are putting the contents only. There is a smell that comes, and then it is prepared, and then you have to put it on your plate and then eat it. Now even that is also taken care. Somebody is giving it to you on a platter. That is the strength of our parampara, Guru Parampara. That's the mercy that we have got. So they just give it, and then you have to just take it, put it in the mouth, eat it, and digest it. Of course, they can't digest it for you. So we'll have to digest it ourselves. And then we can see the spiritual strength that is growing in us. So the moment we eat, the instant thing that is given to us here, which is so wonderful that you just have to eat it and then you get the strength and then you can fly. You can come and then sit here and then talk and do everything. Otherwise, it's all the mercy of them. And then so wonderful things then begin to happen. So, and then when that wonderful thing is happening in association of devotees, then we are completely protected. We will not go here and there. So there are many things to add, but then I think I will stop here because we saw Akinchana. Then we also saw how that Akinchana leads us to Nivritti. That means like we are moving above the certain the gunas or the morality of the world. That's what Prabhupada says. Vaishnavas can be amoral or immoral in the material eyes of the material person, but then there is a lot of morality because it is connecting to Krishna. One quick example is Narasimhadev Bhagavan when he was killing Hiranyakashipu. That's a good example to take because what is happening? Son is there, father is being killed. Have you seen any situation where the son is keeping quiet when the father is being killed? Materially, that's a nonsense thing. You will have to immediately. You will go and then try to defend, protect, protest, or do something. No, Prabhupada says he's sitting and making garlands to garland the killer. That is Narasimhadev. So, but then see the different twist to it. So if you look at it in a moral way, it is also different. The gopi is going out and then meeting Krishna in the middle of the night. So first we understand Narasimhadev and this one, then move on to the next and final. That's the final stage. So we don't even have to talk about it. But then when it is connected to Krishna, it doesn't matters. That's the point that we are trying to make. And when that happens, then what is the quality of that individual? Atma Ramaya Shantaya. So he becomes self-satisfied. And then Shanti. So there is peacefulness that comes in. So the way these words connect, or the way Srila Prabhupada has connected these words are wonderful. So like how Akinchana leads to Gunavritta, and then Atmaram, and then Shanta. And she is paying obeisances, that all this is because it is in respect to you. With you, when you are there, then Kaivalya Pataye, you are for everyone. And then with that, then I don't have to worry. So she is saying Namo Namaha. And then in this way, she is concluding this particular prayer. So a very, very heavy loaded one. I was able to do some justice, I hope. Just try to repeat what is there. Yeah, I think we can stop here. If there are any comments or questions, then please go ahead. Otherwise, thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Dhanvat pranams to all of you. Hari Bol. So, any questions or comments, please go ahead. Prabhuji, yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. It was. It was a good endeavor to explain Akinchana. My question to you is, how long will you continue to do Akinchana service without reciprocation? Could you talk a little bit about the reciprocation part of it, which will help a person to continue to be Akinchana?
So the way I have understood that, Prabhuji, thank you for that question. So thank you for picking my mind on that. But then the way I understood Akinchana, it's like if we are looking for a reciprocation at a later date, then it is not Akinchana because you're just delaying it. Maybe next lifetime or maybe after 100 lifetimes. So somewhere there is some desire. Trace is still there. So Akinchana is not having. So these are not connected. Akinchana and then till what time I have to do. That means we want something. Till what time means what? What do you mean by that? I mean, do we want till the time that this happens to me, or till the time that I get liberated? But this Akinchana is beyond that. It is beyond what I will get out of it. It is costless. And it is beyond liberation also, because I am not doing this for liberation. I just want to please Krishna. So that's the bhava that I think which is being brought out by Srila Prabhupada and by Kunti Maharani in this particular verse. So I hope that clarifies, or I mean, you wanted me to bring that out. So thank you for giving me a chance to reiterate that once again. So Prabhuji knows, but he just wanted to ask that, I think. Thank you so much. I hope that satisfies. Yes. Yeah. So Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. The mic there, please. After this, some comments from the Mataji's side also will be wonderful. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
My question is, do I have to willingly give up material things, or it happens by force by the will of the Lord?
What do you think?
I think by force by the will of the Lord.
Not necessary always. So the Lord always gives us a chance. So he'll see if you are giving it up willingly or not. So if you're giving it up willingly, then he is okay with that. But if one is not giving up willingly and there is too much of attachment and that is hampering his or her own progress, then that famous shloka where I take away the wealth of the person who comes to me. But then it is not that he take away the wealth of everybody who has gone to Krishna. It is applicable for people who have gone to Krishna, but then who have not given up the other thing. They're trying to serve both. And that is becoming an impediment for that person's devotional service. You're able to get what I'm saying? So he gives us a chance. So he doesn't do that as a first step. So Prabhu, even in the material world, criminal is given a choice or a chance. Will you correct yourself? If he says yes, then there's a chance given. So in that way, he gives us a choice. And then if we give it up willingly, then it is that second shloka will not be applicable because you are already trying to do that. So he will not do that. He'll make the determination a little more stronger so that you do it more better. So it will not be forceful in that case. So I hope that answers the question. So the Lord should actually first gives a choice and then he takes it away. The understanding. In case if it has to be taken.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. And I said, yeah, but I saw Prabhu raising the hand. I didn't turn the side. I'm sorry.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for the class. Very nice class. I joined late, but I heard that you are talking about two options. One is to please Krishna, and the second one is to see Krishna pleased. And you kind of hinted at that the second option is better than the first. I'm just trying to digest that. So later towards the end, I think in answering one question, you said you want to please Krishna. But when you were talking about that 15-20 minutes back, you were saying the second option of seeing Krishna better pleased is better.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of
yeah, that's true. That's a good catch. Thank you for bringing that out. So this tells us that actually we should be always trying to say, I would like to see Krishna pleased. I hope this pleases Krishna rather than I'm trying to please Krishna. So you can view it as a correction from my side if I've said I want to please Krishna or if I is coming first. So this is a journey that we all are making. So at one point, without us knowing, we will use such words. Whereas if we are trying to grapple with Ahaituki, then we'll have to move there. So, but both are good. I mean, it's a service to Krishna only, but then we'll have to move there. And that's the point that we are making. So even without we realizing, and this is what happens in an association. So where we come to know that there is a small gap in the comment that is made or whatever it is, or in understanding. So then we'll have to quickly correct ourselves and then try to move towards that. So we are tending towards that. So thanks for bringing that up. So Hare Krishna. And Mataji, after that, you.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna.
much for the wonderful class. I just had a quick question. I think in the beginning of the class, you mentioned that when because of the it was for Kunti Maharani or someone else, the Vatsalya Bhava, from Vatsalya they come down to Dasya, right? As far as my understanding is concerned, and I would like if others can comment about it too, it is actually mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion that all these Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. So as we go up until Madhurya, all the other bhavas coming down from Dasya up till Sakhya, Vatsalya, they're all carried on to the next bhava.
Yes.
So the Dasya especially is very prominent in all the rasas, and that's why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, who was in the mood of Radharani, he said, Gopi Bhartuk Padakamayo.
Yes. Yes.
Dasya Bhava is there, but is it right to say that he came, his Vatsalya went away, but came down to Dasya, but Dasya is already there.
Yes.
It is just that Dasya Bhava may become prominent, but the way I look at it is the Acharyas have explained even in Kunti prayers itself, and I think in shloka number 31, where Kunti Maharani is appreciating how Yashoda Maya, she bound Krishna with the rope, and there Prabhupada writes in the purport that it is not the Dasya Bhava, he never mentions that. He talks about the reverential attitude is what that takes over in case of Devaki. And so the Aishwarya Bhava takes over, and that is why they see more Krishna more as the supreme person. But the Vatsalya Bhava will never go away because it is permanent relationship once it is established. It's always there in whichever of those 5 mellows. So the point is, even so in case of Goloka residents like Yashoda Maya and others, there is absence of that Aishwarya Bhava or reverential attitude. Even in any circumstance, even if they are reminded of the Lord's almightiness or his, him being the supreme Lord, like in case of Nanda Maharaj also, when Uddhava came to speak to him, they don't take much notice of it, and it doesn't alter their bhava towards Krishna, nor does the Aishwarya bhava arise in them. And they do, but the Dasya is always there. Even Nanda Maharaj also, Yashodamaya, they all consider themselves. There is a verse also regarding this. Nanda Maharaj himself, when Uddhava talks to him, he also prays that he becomes a better servant of Krishna. This comes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So would you like to throw more light on this?
So Mataji, whatever you have said, if I'm looking at it, so you're moving from one pastime to another, and all the statements that you have made is, I mean, I agree on that. But the only thing is that when there is this bhava, see, it is contained, like it is upward, downward compatibility is there. So like if one is in Vatsalya, then the lower bhavas are already there in that person. And then, so that is why then you could switch down to that. See, you cannot, a person in Vatsalya cannot switch themselves to the higher one of Madhurya. It cannot happen like that. You can't switch like that, but you can only switch lower because it is there. So it aligns to what you're saying. But what I was saying was that downward thing happens willingly outside of Goloka or outside of Vrindavana, where when they are interacting with the Lord, then they can exhibit that because they get so awed by the Lord that then the Dasya comes in. Like you said, reverence is actually a quality of Dasya, because if you have to revere, if there is reverence, then that means then you are placing yourself lower than the other person, which is the Dasya. Whereas that particular thing that does not happen in Vrindavan because of Yogamaya. Even though the Vrindavan's Vatsalya and let's say outside of Vrindavan Vatsalya, the thing is the same. There also the lower gunas of Dasya is there. But then Yogamaya does not allow that to become prominent, and then they continue in their rasa. That's the point that I was making. And then that's how then we saw the examples of the Gopas, everybody. So somebody lifting a mountain and then Herculean thing with a little finger is an awe. Reverence should be there, but it was not there. Why it was not there? Even though Dasya was there in them, because they are in Sakya and Vatsalya, which is higher, which aligns. But still it didn't come because Yogamaya. I mentioned that, saying that because of Yogamaya, it doesn't come out, or in the Leela or in the interaction, it doesn't come out. I was just making that comment. And then why? Because Krishna wants it like that, and then go on. But everywhere, if Krishna wants it like that, then somewhere he has to show that he is the supreme Lord. No, so you'll have to have the Dasya Bhav. So the rest of the Leelas are always there for that. So that's my. I'm just adding that to what you said.
Actually, Dasya Bhava is there in Vrindavan too, Goloka Vrindavan, but that is again devoid of reverential attitude.
Correct. So to some extent, there might be Dasya, because mother means what? There is service, no? So somehow to one extent in Vatsalya, there is Dasya, if you look at it that way. But there is no, that bhava in that sense of reverence is not there. Yes.
Yeah. So there are some of these servants that serve Krishna in Dasya Bhava, but that is again unmixed with reverence.
Yeah, unmixed with reverence. They are not awed by him. Okay, like you might serve a friend, no, but then you'll still treat him as an equal. So in that way.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, these are wonderful nectars that we are churning now. So thanks for bringing that up. So on this note, I think we can stop. Oh, sorry, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class. Based on our conditionings, we still carry material desires, material hankerings, and then we take to the process of sadhana, and then we hear that no, material, you shouldn't have material desires, and to some extent it gets suppressed. So rather than suppressing it, is it better to clear it off, remove the traces itself?
So that's a very individualistic choice. For some, it has to be suppressed. For some, it can be removed in one go. So it depends on the position in which that person is. So it's not like this is better than that. For that individual, this could be better, whereas the other one has to be better for another one. Like all students are not the same. For some student, you ask any teacher, they'll say like, you have to make him sit down, so you have to be a little stern with that person. For other person, you just tell him, then he might do what is being told. So our desires or the strength of our desires, it will depend on that. And it is not a universal thing. Just because I was made to do or I had to be told very categorically for certain things doesn't mean that it's a generous thing. Because for that particular desire, which I have a stronger attachment, I need this type of solution. Whereas another desire could be there, which you just tell me, yeah, that's okay. So all these variations are there in our minds. It varies individually. It varies on the desire, and from time to time also. So if you ask me when I was younger, then maybe there were certain desires which was very hard to kill, whereas now it is not. So many, what do you call, permutations are there, and then it all has to come in. So I don't think we can look at it, but let us be aware of it in that way.
I was coming from the point that suppressing, ultimately it shouldn't burst out like a volcano.
Exactly. So we shouldn't do it our own way. We shouldn't be the judge of ourselves. That's a good point that you brought out. All this is not for us to, there's no self-medication here. So what should we do? I mean, this is knowledge. This is our understanding. But then we'll have to go to the Guru, and then based on what the Guru is saying, then we just do it. We blindly follow. So because the Guru knows best. So Guru will know what is correct for this person. And then accordingly, it is given measured down. So following the Guru or taking the instruction from Guru, taking the instruction from senior Vaishnavas, from all types of Gurus in the ISKCON fraternity is advisable. But then that doesn't mean we have to go to all of them for one question. So don't try to bowl me on that. But then, yeah, we know. I mean, okay. I mean, yeah. So that
we
is.
can take refuge of those shlokas. Api che suduracharo bhajate manam niba sadhureva samantaya samyak vavasata kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashva shantim nikachati kaunteya pratijanahi name bhaktya pranashyati.
Name bhaktya pranashyati is the thing that we will carry. Whatever condition we are in, whatever situation we are in, whatever medicine we are being administered, whatever self-medication we do, still there is progress that is there, and that is a mercy. And as long as we stay, that four things, staying in association, chanting, reading Bhagavatam, and then all that, if we are able to do it, stick to it, then we are safe. Progress will happen. Some little this way, that way, but then eventually we are on the right, we have boarded the right plane, so we will reach the destination. That's the assurance that we have. So for that, the first is, activity is chanting, which is just take the Lord's name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And the battleground, when we are together, let us work cooperatively. That way, then everything is taken care. On that note, we'll stop here. Thank you for the opportunity. Offering obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatrubhyasya kripa sindubhyavacha patidanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha ananta koti Vaishnavrind ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gurudev ki jai. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitya Gaur Sitanath Paramanande Hari Hari Bo.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful churning of the manthan, and definitely nice butter and all the products would have come out. So let us all thank and express our deep gratitude from the bottom of our heart, but loudly chanting once Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We have two sponsors today for Prasadam. We have Vikas Prabhu And we also have Vishnu Ram, Sridevi. Sridevi, Mataji is carrying 5 months. They are all on the family way. So Prabhuji and Mataji are requesting prayers. And even Vikas Prabhu is also requesting prayers and blessings from this August assembly here, so that they can, move forward on the spiritual path. Let us all loudly chant it once. Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There is another devotee who is seeking prayers. Srinivas Raju Prabhu. I'm not sure. I'm sure some of you know him. His father passed away yesterday. So Prabhuji is also seeking prayers so that the soul can, reach to a higher destination. So let us all chant loudly once Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, we have also just got to know that Jairam Prabhu, his mother passed away today. So Prabhuji is also seeking prayers. So let us also chant once Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We had a wonderful association of seniors here in the temple. And that was as part of the SIDC program. SIDC program which happens every year, and we had the benefit, ICC Temple had the benefit of sponsoring and hosting all the wonderful devotees and Vaishnavas here. And His Grace Narari Chaitanya Prabhu especially wants to thank all those devotees who had participated in serving, right from breakfast, accommodating devotees in their houses, for serving breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, and everything. So Prabhuji wanted to thank and extend his thanks to all those hospitality and the services that each one of you have offered. So a big Hari Bol for all these wonderful devotees. Hari Bol! And next Sunday is Ekadashi, so please make a note of that. Thank you so much. We'll have Jagannath Ashtakam now.
Krishna.